when people sort of talk about stars of the past, I believe he was rather a big star, but you don't really hear his name come up that often, and it seems a bit of a shame. And I was wondering sort of what your first memories of your father as a wrestler, and was he always main events? Was he always semi-mains? Where was he sort of in the pecking order? And what do you remember of his various characters, and sort of like what influence was he on you, I suppose, career-wise?
Well, my father, just like what I was saying before, he was one of those guys that didn't know when to hang him up. Now, everybody's got their own prerogative of when to hang him up. And I felt that my last few matches embarrassed me. And I thought he wasn't embarrassed, but he should have been toward the end there. He was a main event star in the late 50s and early 60s for a period of about 8 years, where he was United States champion. He was Jim Barnett's best heel, and he made a lot of money, and he did a lot of great things in the wrestling business, and he opened the door for the Macho Man and myself. But I didn't have the kind of relationship where I could say, Dad, you're embarrassing yourself. He's a shadow of his former self. Now I can look at myself in the mirror. People call me up and they say, would you like to get back in the ring? And I say, no, I'm not good enough. He says, well, what if we give you a young tag team partner and you can just hold the rope? I said, okay, that sounds pretty good. So I can sit there holding the rope. So I've done it myself. If the price is right, I'll be there tonight. But I remember the Macho Man at my dad's funeral. When we were preparing for it, Randy says, I need to write a dead, but don't make it long and boring because you can be long and boring. So I said, twas back in 1945 on Independence Day that Nazis had surrendered. Japan was on its way. My dad was in the Navy, as history will tell. As he was bleeding through the mats, a world record fell. He did 6,000 sit-ups with an extra 33 to glorify our Savior who died on Calvary. And Robert Ripley's feature celebrated this event. Giving credence to success is not an accident. That's always been his motto through times both good and bad. He's a real Hall of Famer and the world's greatest dad. See, what I was describing was my father broke a sit-up record at the age of 21, and he was featured in Ripley's Believe It or Not. That's the reason that he never changed his name to something more theatrical, because at the time, newspaper was everything, and the greatest syndicated cartoon was from Ripley. And Ripley died young, but Ripley is still huge all over the world.
If you started wrestling about 1974 and you started tagging with your father, where was he sort of in-ring wise? Because as you say, you get a younger wrestler with you, and then the older one maybe makes the comeback at the end, holds the tag ropes, and then sort of does not the lion's share of the work, and the young man does the lion's share of the work. Where was your father maybe 1974 career-wise? And did he need you at that time?
Well, he was in tremendous condition, and he was still very influential on me because after the match would be over, he would criticize me for about 200 miles. And it was good criticism, constructive criticism. And that's the kind of thing that a young man needs. And but he wasn't embarrassing at the time yet. It had to be a few years later. He was 30 years older than me. So if I was 21, he was 51. And he was in great shape. So he wasn't quite as, besides, they had Boba Brazil, they had Bull Curry, who was really old. They had a lot of old people there. I was like one of the few young guys.
Do you smell what The Rock is cooking?
Enough is enough!
Booty poo candy ass!
I had him writhing in pain from my sharpshooter.
Rocky!
I am not a nugget!
Stick him straight up your candy ass!
I kicked your leg out of your leg.
The Rock has come!